And thank you everybody for joining us today. It's so great to be back at High Tech Live. And it's so great to see everybody here. I unfortunately had to miss our first session of the year, but it's so great to reconnect with the high tech community, see all of you here today as we really spend some time getting to know some of our new board members. Before we dive into that, I do want to take a minute to recognize a couple of things. So when I joined High Tech in late 2018, one of the things that I found really attractive about the organization was that it was an organization in a really interesting phase of growth, right? It was coming from a place where it was in many ways volunteer led, and it was this organic community, this wonderful organic community of leaders that came together, and this board of directors that really shepherded that initial phase of growth. But what the organization was going through at the time was this really interesting point of maturity, where we were imposing sort of term limits and developing a process by which we would ensure that we would be bringing in new leaders, new board members, new leadership into the organization to ensure that we could grow and mature with the times. And it's something that I found really attractive when I first came aboard. And shortly thereafter, we went through a process where we created a new executive committee, and we brought in Guillermo Diaz Jr. as our new chair, and Rosa Ramos Kwok and Miriam and Daryl as the executive committee, and a formal process by which we renew and grow our internal leadership. And so this year we had a really great opportunity to bring on 3 new board members. We had 2 board members whose terms expired, and I don't think that they're on, but I do want to take a moment to recognize them and their leadership. Tim Campos, who joined the board more than 6 years ago when he was at that time the CIO of Facebook, later went on to start his own company called Woven. And Monica McManus with Lockheed Martin, 2 incredible leaders who really gave so much of themselves to this organization and helped put us on this incredible path of growth. And we wouldn't be able to be where we are today as an organization were it not for the dedication and the leadership of these 2 leaders and so many others. So I do want to take a moment to recognize them. We are incredibly blessed to have this really impactful community of Hispanic technology leaders that are committed to this idea of helping others and helping the next generation of Hispanic technology professionals and executives. And I am so extremely excited that we have these 3 leaders that are joining our board, that have joined our board. And I'm excited for all of you to get to know who they are, but more importantly, for you to get to know why they are so driven and why and what it is that they're hoping to accomplish by engaging with the High Tech Board of Directors. And that's why, really the session, the title of this session isn't, like, let's get to know the board members, but really a little deeper, and let's get to know why they're so passionate and what they hope to accomplish by engaging with this organization. So first of all, please join me in welcoming, and I know we did it, but it merits doing it again, Jonathan Echeverria from Bank of America, Yamila Harris from Munich Re, and Jesus Mantas from IBM, our newest board members at High Tech. So I want to start with Yamila, who obviously has a long history with the organization. Up until her joining the board January 1, she was the co-chair of our corporate advisory board. My very first High Tech Summit, she was the MC at Microsoft. So Yamila, why don't we get started with you, and why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, your personal journey, where you're from, your background, what inspires you, and also give us a little bit of what you see in line for the future for you. Like, where do you see yourself in 3 years?
Yeah, in 3 years, 3 years older, hopefully 3 years wiser. But yeah, we'll get a little bit, we'll get to that in a little bit. So I was actually born and raised in Miami, Florida, like many Cubanos that Both of my parents are Cuban, and my paternal grandfather is actually Middle Eastern, which is where the name Yamila actually comes from. So there's a little bit of a little fun fact there. I started working at the age of 14. My background is one where my dad wasn't around for a big part of our childhood. My mom became sick, and so I started working really early on in order to help the family, help my siblings. So this kind of sense of like family and responsibility is something that's been with me for a really long time. Fun fact, I didn't even know what IT was when I went into the workforce. And so it was really interesting and organic getting into it. I started in healthcare on the medical record side back when everyone remembers paper medical records. Yeah, those. So I was one of the pioneer of the first electronic medical records, got into software development. And that's where I found my passion for like this problem solving, working with the business, finding solutions. And I love all things end user experience. And so that's been a big part of my entire like 30-year journey work-wise. And really passionate about things like organizational change, organizational psychology. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear me speak at High Tech, and it'll be things about social intelligence and some of the, psychology behind things. And I'm an introvert, so obviously I use it on myself before I share it with others. Where do I see myself in 3 years? Hopefully continuing to push up and pull up, really striving to make sure that we're building up that pipeline for the future. I don't think that's something that I'll ever give up or go away. I think the sky's the limit. I'm nowhere near, I think, where I want to be yet. I think that there's always room for growth and improvement and learning. And hopefully sitting on a for-profit board and helping to expand the ranks of women, Hispanic women on boards. So there you go.
Great. Thank you, Yamila. I want to turn to Jesus Mantas, who I want to say, Jesus, you and I have never personally met in person in the flesh. You were connected to us by one of our board members, and I first met you virtually as we were doing the prep for our last session, where you had a fireside chat with the president of IBM, Jim Whitehurst, and extremely excited about your background, what I've been able to learn about you in recent months. But love to hear from you, your personal background and why you're excited to join this organization.
Yeah, thank you, Omar, and thanks guys for taking time on a Friday afternoon to be here with us. I mean, everybody's got a choice with their time, so you guys are choosing it to spend with us. So hopefully we won't disappoint you. My background is I was born and raised in the south of Spain. So, mother's family, like many of us, come from. 17 years old, I went to Madrid, where I studied engineering. Excuse me. It's very cold today in New York. And then in 1994, I had an opportunity to come to the United States. I had never actually left Spain. I was 25 years old at the time, and I had an opportunity to come with a contract for 3 years. And the main reason why I came is I never could speak any good English. It wasn't really a strength in Spain to learn English. So I thought, and it's something that I always wanted to do. I always envied the people that could speak fluent English. So I came with the objective of going back to Spain in 3 years. And I'm still here. So the joke is I still haven't learned how to speak proper English. So that's why I'm still here. The 3 years became 20 something. But no, I found a lot of opportunity. The first 3 years of my career was with Ernst & Young. Then in '97, I joined Pricewaterhouse. At the time, I was attracted to like the phenomenal talent, and everybody I met seemed to be smarter than me, and I wanted to be in a place where I could learn from everybody. So that ended up being retrospective. That ended up being a very good decision because I joined as a manager in 1997, and in 3.5 years, I made it to partner. So by 2001, I made it to partner, which I didn't even know what that meant. I think that kind of like career was kind of like going ahead more than I could comprehend what was going on. And then 2002, the big other change came up when IBM bought the consulting unit of Pricewaterhouse. So I actually didn't choose to join IBM, and that ended up being also a really good event that happened to me. Right, I didn't seek that; it happened to me because my strengths have always been to be at the intersection of business, technology, and society. That is the intersection where I can have the most value, when I'm most relevant, when I can, do better than many other people. And that was like, a perfect storm for a company like IBM with all of the technology background and the focus on business and the heritage of trust in society. So I've had a great career. Obviously, I haven't gone back to Spain, as you can imagine, and I think is this part of my passion and why I care so much about the Hispanic and Latino communities in the United States is because I have both experiences, right? I have the experience of like living in Spain and being very successful. I was very successful before I came here in Spain as, if you want, the majority, a place where I looked like everybody else. I spoke like everybody else. I, behaved like everybody else. So I didn't ever understand what diversity or inclusion meant in that context. And then when I came to this country, I mean, literally 3 weeks of me joining this country, I was being judged not by what I could do, but by how I looked, how I spoke, how I, was different. It was a very interesting and hard lesson for me to then be on the other side of the diversity equation, right? Having the experience of being in the majority, having the experience of being in the minority, and then realizing that, in order for us to make an impact and close the gap of the Hispanic and Latino talent and leadership in the United States, you really need to understand both perspectives, because we need to influence a lot of the allies and the non-Hispanics to make decisions that will benefit the Hispanics in order to do that. So that's where a lot of my personal passion comes from. And I think high tech is a key element for me. I was privileged to be selected for the board. I have, my experience with high tech has been of impressive quality, high growth trajectory, and really genuine impact. Right? I don't think I've ever seen high tech do anything for marketing's sake or for PR's sake. Is everything that high tech does, it has a profound, foundation of creating an impact that matters, and I can relate to that. So really honored to be on the board, and very hopeful for what's ahead of us.
Of course, I was on mute. Thank you, Jesus. You said a lot of things that I do want to get back to and touch on, because I think it's really important. Some points around diversity, and specifically some points around the connection between Latinos in the United States and Spain. But I do want to get to Jonathan real quick, because would love for Jonathan to take a few minutes to introduce himself. Tell us a little bit about your personal journey, where you're from, your background, what inspires you, and a little bit more about the connection with high tech.
Yeah, thanks, Omar. It's so great to see so many friends and familiar faces on the screen, Mariano and Luisa, and just so many that I haven't seen. I feel like I haven't seen in forever. But my background, I think, like many of you, maybe consider unique. I grew up in the Hawaiian Islands. My father is from Ecuador. My mother is from Sweden. So I'm that classic sort of mutt, 50% down the line. And, my background was interesting for so many reasons, but, I've always, really enjoyed and very much have been connected to my Hispanic roots, very close with my grandparents on my father's side, who most of my family is in Miami now. I've had a chance to, spend a number of months and actually spent half a year in Ecuador doing a tour of the country and just seeing some amazing places, some of the most inspiring places, meeting some of the most incredible people just through that opportunity. But I got introduced to HITECH maybe 5, 6 years ago now through Rosa Ramos Kwok, who I don't know if Rosa has joined us today, but she is our vice chair on HITECH, and I just to this day can remember what an impact Rosa made on me in the sense of just how selfless she was with what HITECH meant to her, and the fact that we had this common bond of having Hispanic roots, and immediately that created this connection that she did everything in her power to look out for me at the time. She did everything in her power to encourage me to engage with HITECH, to really understand what the mission was all about. And then through, over the months and over the years of participation in the events and acting as a mentor on EEP and just pushing me to be uncomfortable in different ways, I just was drawn to the organization, and it's been such an incredible experience. Inspiration is interesting. I'm inspired in different ways. Weeks like this week, I'm inspired by looking forward to my martini later on tonight at around 7, 8 o'clock. I'm inspired by my daughter. I'm inspired by just family members who have it a lot more challenging than I do. My wife is just incredibly selfless, and I'm inspired by the fact that she brings that every single day. My brother has been battling addictions his whole life, and I'm inspired by what he's doing to overcome those things. My sister she's been so difficult for her to make ends meet her entire life, and she inspires me. Those that are close to me, I think, inspire me the most. I mean, I'm classically inspired by the athletes and the celebrities and by business leaders. David Goggins is one of my favorite inspirational sort of pseudo celebrities as a runner. He helped me to get into to running marathons, something that I never thought in a million years I'd be able to do. And I've gone through my first few, and 3 years from now, I hope to be running my 4th world major marathon. Hopefully, if at some point we all bring them together. But I think HITECH has it's been a safe haven for me for the many years that I've engaged with them. I've made such good friends, and the community is authentic, and that's what really has drawn me, to find ways to give back in a different way. And serving on the board of directors was the next step in that chapter for me. So that's a little bit about me.
Great, Jonathan, and I look forward to running one of those majors with you. Thank you for that. Yamila, I want to go back to you because it's sort of my impression that you have maybe the longest history with the organization, and participating in the EP program, being a regular speaker at HITECH Live and in different panels and sessions that we put on. Having that experience as a participant, I'm curious to see what you think are some of the areas of opportunity for us as an organization and as a community as we build into this sort of new future that we all find ourselves in.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Omar. I think that to your point, I'm probably a little bit uniquely positioned because I've been with HITECH for about 6 years now, and I've kind of run through the gamut of all of the programs and all of the offerings of HITECH firsthand. From EEP to board fit to being part of the advisory board to attending the events and speaking at events. And so I think it's given me a really well-rounded perspective of what the organization offers, how it's evolved over the course of the last few years. And for me, I see an organization that is unlike any of the others that I've participated in that at its core value and what really attracts people is that sense of community and that sense of family. So that for me is something that we never want to lose. And I think as an organization, keeping to the core value is going to be extremely important, because it's easy to keep growing, you know, but you don't want to do that without losing that, you know, you don't want to do that and lose the core, keep that core. The programs for me have been so tremendously impactful, both personally and also in my career, that I think that that is a big area of focus, because that's where we add value for all of the other IT executive leaders that are coming into the organization. So this concept of, you know, beyond EEP and some of the things that we're doing with BoardFit, bringing those together and evolving those into almost a high-tech university or high-tech academy, I think adds value, not just for the individual members coming in, but for the companies and the corporations that are signing up to sponsor high tech, because I think that that is a big value add. I think as we've gone through the pandemic, we've opened some new doors as well. The high-tech live component, the interaction that we have on a more regular basis between the events and the summits, I think is an area that we probably want to continue to explore and evolve. And I would also say just the world today is a lot about collaboration. So making sure that we're not working in a silo, and that we're finding those commonalities and those ways of collaborating, not just with the companies that are sponsors, right, but with areas of the community, with other organizations that are like-minded, in order to build that community together. And so I'll probably, you know, I can probably talk about this for a really, really long time. So I'll kind of leave it at that.
No, I appreciate that, Yamila, and I appreciate your perspective. And, you know, one of the reasons we were a few minutes late is I was on a panel with a couple of different organizations through a new group called TechPact, talking about how companies can attract and retain diverse talent. And so would love to continue the conversation offline with you and anybody here as we talk about organizations that we should be collaborating with, because I agree, we can't do this in a silo. And I think one of the benefits from that change that has been thrusted upon us by COVID is that, you know, a lot of these collaborations can potentially be a little easier because we've eliminated a lot of the gap between our organizations. I want to go back to you, Jesus, because you talked about your experience coming from Spain and into the United States, and the cultural differences, especially around diversity and how you're perceived. You know, in 2020, so it's something we had been working on for a while, and really building out high-tech's international relationships and communities, if you will. As you know, we do the High Tech 50, where we recognize the top 50 Hispanic technology leaders in Latin America and Spain and Portugal. But there has been this growing movement to expand our communities. Pepe Gomez from our advisory board has been really active in trying to build out High Tech Mexico. And we see that as really a model to bring more, and it's different. It's interesting because you think about, like, in Mexico, nobody's Hispanic, right? They're all Mexican, yet they see an opportunity and a need. And then we're also working with people, with a small group of leaders in Spain that have worked to build a community of technology professionals and executives with an interest in connecting to us. And 2020 was supposed to be the year that we formally launched these. We were planning an event in June 2020 in Madrid. And we were going to do something in August of last year in Mexico. And obviously, you know, we were never able to do that. But Jesus, I wonder if you can talk about, you know, what do you see as the opportunity, and how can we connect these communities, be it Mexico, Latin America, Spain, while still retaining what Yamila talked about as being this core essence of high tech, this familia and this community? And what can we learn from each other? And practically, how can we make those connections?
I think it's a great question. It's both a great strategic question for high tech, but I think it's a great question on exactly what you said. When we speak with companies in terms of general diversity and inclusion initiatives. If you talk about gender, that's a universal global community, right? So, but when you talk about Hispanic, it's a very targeted U.S.-centric problem set, right? So it has a different connotation, right? And when we talk, for example, when we studied the leadership gap, we're very focused on the fact that in the United States, 18.5% of the population is Hispanic right now, and only 4% of that population has any position of leadership, right? So clearly a massive gap of representation, as well as the problems of education. The Hispanic community in the United States, 6 of every 10 Hispanics are younger than 35 years old. So the Hispanic and Latino population in the US, they're the future demographic, right? They're the future workforce, they're the future consumers, they're the future everything, which basically tells you in this decade where that population goes, the entire economy is going to go, right? So this is not just let's address a Hispanic issue. You almost have to extrapolate and say the United States have a demographic problem that if Hispanics and Latinos are not like great educated, have economic advancement and they're well positioned, it is a problem for the entire country. It's not a problem for the US. So that's one side of it. So you would say, I think the question that you're saying is like, okay, so how does that relate to that same problem in Spain or in Mexico and some others? And I think then you kind of like, I think the way at least I frame it is when you step back and figure out at the end of the day, the majority, especially if you talk about economic development, talent doesn't have a limit, doesn't have a geographic limit. And you already see there is a lot of scarcity of technology talent in Silicon Valley, and there is a lot of like high growth startups and unicorns that are coming from Spain, and they're coming from Mexico, and they're coming from other places where if we would establish those connections, we could create synergy that would actually benefit both sides. On one side of the equation, there is a lot of people in Spain that are Hispanic that could actually benefit. They don't know how to actually be successful necessarily in the United States market, right? They just don't know that. So by connecting with the Hispanic community, they have a cultural affinity, is more likely to match and succeed, and you actually can create economic advancement both for the Hispanic community in the US as well as for the people in Spain. Same thing in Mexico, same thing in another satellite. So I think both the talent exchange and the angle of economic development opportunities, specifically in the technology industry, I think are very interesting opportunities that we should definitely explore how to establish those connections. And I think it's going to create win-win. I think the Hispanic community or the Latino community in the United States will benefit from that connection to these other countries, and vice versa. These other countries will benefit from better understanding what does it take to succeed in a market like the United States.
Fantastic. I realize to our 3 new board members that I'm off the prescribed questions that we were going to send, but when I hear stuff that I think is really relevant for our organization, I kind of just want to dive right in. I want to get back to some of the questions around focus on our board members and why, but I do want to pause and say we want to make this as interactive of a conversation as possible. So if people have questions or you want to speak up or put something in the chat, I notice we have some comments there and I'll review that right now. But this is an opportunity for you guys to ask questions of us, of our new board members, because we want to, again, to Yamila's point, this is, we are a community, we are a familia, and this is, getting to know our new family members that are joining us. But I do want to go to Jonathan, and and back to this idea of service. As leaders, and I'll say, like, I get approached often about joining organizations and joining boards. And, I think I've gone through this maturity in my life where at first it was like, yes. And now almost certainly the answer is almost always no, because I'm much more deliberate about where I choose to serve and how I choose to use my time in a way that's more impactful. So, Jonathan, I imagine that, that you also sort of gone through similar experiences, and want to see if you can talk to us about, why HITECH? Why is this such an important organization to you, and what do you think your contributions can be to the broader community?
Yeah, Omar, I remember you asking a similar question during my interview process back in December. And I can't recall exactly what I said, but I do, there's something about HITECH that you're drawn to. Everyone's familiar with the hashtag push up, pull up, right? I don't think I really realized and truly understood what that meant until I experienced it myself as a result of, the engagement with the community. So when I think about things that, I can do, I think a lot about that, right? Am I finding ways through my participation on the board to continue our mission of pushing up and pulling up, right? How does that commitment translate into my actions, right? How does that commitment translate into where my time is spent? I think a commitment to listen to members of our community, to my fellow board members, to those that have great suggestions and ideas on what we can do. I think that needs to continue to be the heart and soul of what we do, right? It's sort of a cycle that feeds itself. The careers that I've seen and observed thrive as a result of their engagement, members and those that have engaged with HITECH has been incredible over the years, right? And the more that we can sort of expand that commitment to selfless giving back to one another, the more that we're going to see more of that great progress, right? I've had the privilege of watching some individuals that probably have second guessed themselves for many, many reasons, but HITECH being the place that has helped them to understand and realize what their potential is, whether that's through the engagement with their mentors or what have you, or just even through observing and having the opportunity to see others like themselves, at the events, virtual or otherwise. I've had a couple of mentees that, it's almost like a change, a completely different outlook from when we begin our relationship in the earlier part of the year with EEP versus the end part of the year, and just how inspired they are to really think big about what their potential is, to think big about, how they can make a difference for not just the community, right, but for things at large. So I think that's what I think about when I think about board service. I think about finding ways to give back to, one another. And I think we need to continue to encourage that same behavior, right? The threat that we're going to have is as the organization gets bigger, it may not feel as intimate. And I think we just need to be cautious about that. But I think through the commitment of every one of us, we can help to, to stave off that threat.
I want to ask Jesus the same question, because I think you and I had I might have asked you a similar question when we spoke before, and you expressed that you're limited in the number of boards that you're able to serve in. You serve on a corporate board, but this is something you said that you had a passion for and that you wanted to do. And so I wonder if you can share with the group and the community, what that is and the impact that you hope to have.
You mean for me on the corporate board or for me on this board? On
this board.
I think scale, I hope. The main area is I think the underlying quality and thoughtfulness and focus of the programs is remarkable. I think this team has done a phenomenal job at that. And I think the main point that I think, Omar, you and I talked about is, we have a great executive development program. IBM has been a beneficiary of it, but we get like 2 to 3 people. I need like 200 or 300, not 2 to 3. So how do we gain scale? Hopefully, is something that I can bring to this one and contribute.
Yeah, and I think this, Omar, goes back to that original question that you had, right, around what are some of those opportunities and some of those growth potentials for high tech, right? And so, again, I just keep coming back to this concept of that high tech university, right, and the ability to have, beyond the sponsorship, ability to subscribe to that, or ability to bring other members of the community that may not necessarily be tied to a specific corporate sponsor, giving them the opportunity to come in on entrepreneurs, because I think we learned so much from entrepreneurs and from millennials and other folks across the Hispanic community that may not necessarily have as much of this opportunity today. But what everybody's been saying just makes me keep thinking, right? It's like when you do something that you love, right? And for the 3 of us and for the rest of us that are on here today, right? This is something that we love. That passion, I mean, it's going to emanate off of us, and it's going to energize people around us. And I think that that's what we can expect to do as members of the board, as members of the community, to share that passion in a way that it's contagious and it can't be contained.
Great. I appreciate that, Yamina. I kind of want to put the 3 of you on the spot a little bit, because I believe, it's great to have these conversations, but I always believe that it's important for people to walk away with something. And this panel that we were just on, that I was just on, they asked a similar question, and it was like, what can you do today? And my response was, the majority of the people on this panel were D&I leaders, and my response to them is identify at least one senior diverse leader on your team and empower them to promote others, to help develop others, and give them the tools in order to be able to help others. I'm curious to see if I can ask all 3 of you, now directed to the leaders on this call, right? Hispanic technology executives, professionals, part of the high tech community. What's one thing that you could recommend, or that you would advise people on this call to do first thing Monday morning next week to have an impact?
I'll give it a shot, Jamila and Azus are thinking. I can't recall where I heard this phrase, but I love it. And it's people don't care what you know unless you know that they care. And I use it often in town halls and in engagements with, my management team and employees at my company. If it was one thing I would just say on Monday, those that are around you that maybe need a hand, let them know that you care, and find ways, right, to ensure that they know that. Could be pushing up, pulling up. It could be encouragement. It could be just a simple reach out and connection. But I think nowadays, given everything that we're all going through and this just very exceptional time that we're in, I think that's really important. I mean, it's the spirit of sort of what high tech is all about, but sometimes it's just a little thing. So that would be my piece of advice.
So I'm going to say, don't wait until Monday. You have right in front of you a screen full of names of people that you may or may not know. I'm inviting you to connect with some of these folks that you don't know yet, that are a part of your community and that are a part of this extended high-tech community. So the call to action is get to know and connect with some of these folks. And those of you that are open to it, you can put your LinkedIn in the chat, you know, or say that you're open to it. And I think it's a great way for you to start building that network and that connection. With everything that's gone on in the pandemic, there are a lot of people, even in this call today, that I know are, you know, in need of support, that I know are looking for opportunities because, you know, they've run into some difficult times as well. This is your familia, this is your community, get to know them. So I think that that's probably where I would say to start.
Yeah, I don't think I can top those, but you know, lately I'm very focused on this aspect of making making desires operational. So Monday morning, one of the things that I am doing in my own home of IBM, the services side of IBM, is I'm declaring a set of targets and very intentional programs targeted to very specific people to make a difference, right? So not just create a context and hope and wish that good things are going to happen, but really trying to formally move people. If they don't have mentoring, make sure that they have mentoring and put a program around it. If they have mentoring, then trying to move it to advocacy, which is, you know, different than mentoring. You know, mentors, you talk to mentors, but sponsors talk about you, right? And I think you need sponsors to get ahead. I think you know you can use mentors to learn. So so I think just making a lot of these things more operational and tied to, you know, a little bit what we have in the chat here, that that people were saying, to the fact that this shouldn't just be done because we want to be nice to the Hispanic or Latino population, or because we want to be fair. Is because it's actually, it should be a business imperative, right? I mean, I think it should be a business imperative to have and represent the communities that we serve. And the communities that we serve, you know, have, you know, gender diversity, and have Hispanic diversity, and have Black diversity. And I think it should, as every business imperative, it should be actually intentional, and it should be operationalized. So that's my Monday morning thing. And I'm starting with our own unit, right? Which we have been casual and anecdotal about it. And I think we need to get more specific.
Well, I want to share what I hope, something very, very practical, very operational that people do. Number one, if your companies have not yet submitted names for people for our next EEP class, please do that. And I want to make sure that everybody has noted on their calendars March 17th through March 19th for our upcoming high-tech spring virtual leadership summit hosted by JP Morgan Chase and Company. I see Benny clapping. Good to see you there.
Register, guys, register.
We have been working hard on the agenda and lining up speakers and topics, and I'm excited about the shape that is beginning to take. And we will start, Viv, correct me if I'm wrong, start announcing some of those speakers ideally as early as next week, but please block those times on your calendar, because we absolutely want to see all of you participate. As you know, when we switched to a virtual format last year, what it allowed us to do is to expand the number of registrations that we make available to our corporate partners. And you know, this is an opportunity for us and for all of you to really spread the word about the organization, spread the word about high-tech, about this incredible community of Hispanic technology leaders and professionals that we have, and invite others to participate, because we do want to grow, we do want to expand, and we want to do it in a very thoughtful, deliberate, and meaningful way. So Jonathan, Yamila, Jesus, thank you for your willingness to serve in this capacity. I know I said it before and I'll say it again. I look forward to collaborating with all of you. We had our first board meeting last week. I thought it went really well, and the energy and the engagement and the forward thinking of the three of you and all the other leaders on our board, I think, is what really continues to inspire me to help lead this organization and grow this organization. So with that, Viv, I think we're opening it up to networking. I wanted to leave a little bit of time. So if anybody wants to unmute their mic, now is the time to speak up.
Omar, Viviana, hi. Just wanted to use this real quick talking about operational license. Sorry, my English is really bad today. I just want to put a little bit of a shameless plug here because I've been working with Jesse Betancourt and Eleazar Orellana on trying to create a small subgroup, a community of high-tech people here in the state of California to have some, additional meetings and create additional community outside of the larger national organization. In order to have a little bit, share ideas and share best practices, work and usually common resources and see what other ways can we, give to the community. So we're gonna do our first ever meeting of lack of a better word, the California chapter of HITECH, if you may, on Friday the 12th. For those of you who are on the West Coast, not necessarily on California, just on the West Coast, and would like to join us, please feel free to reach out directly to me. I'll put my LinkedIn. I'm connected with many of you on LinkedIn, but if not, you can always reach out to Viviana or Omar, and they will connect with me. But it will be great to have you and have additional conversations in addition to the great activities that HITECH, plan for us all year long.
And Jorge, that's a great segue, right? Because I think that's something that we're working on with the advisory board and the board as well. And Omar's, very well aware. We're trying to find a way to expand this and have a little bit of that local flavor, within several regions across the U.S.
Absolutely. It's a great way to keep it intimate too, and relevant to the local situation.
Yeah, Jorge, thanks for bringing that up. If there's anything that we can do to help get the word out for the February 12th gathering in California, we'd love to do it. Like Yamila said, we're aiming to do the same thing. We're looking to build out groups in a couple of different markets. So the greater New York, New Jersey market, where we have a significant number of HITECH members, Chicago, Texas, we're looking at, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and Austin. South Florida is always well represented. And I can't wait to get back and visit them in person. And then the greater Washington, D.C. area. And so if there's anything that we can do to help facilitate that, we want to do it. But this is something that, we'd love to see happen organically, of people coming together, of course, with our help and facilitation. So thank you, Jorge, for putting that together.
And I love that we're seeing so many people putting out their LinkedIn URLs out there. Fantastic. Remember, guys, connect. This is how you expand the network, right? And this is how you get to know people.
So I have one more shameless plug. Our scholarship application program, the applications for our scholarship program is open through the HITECH Foundation. And so if you know of young students, whether you're involved in other organizations in your community, if you know of college-age students that are looking for scholarship opportunities through the HITECH Foundation, please send them our way. Send them to the HITECH website. We do $5,000 scholarship for Hispanic students studying technology degrees. So please send them our way.
Yeah, and Selena just put the post out there. So if you look at your chat, you have the quick link for the application there. So make sure that you save the chat so that you've got that information for later. I think we also have the HITECH 50 that the nominations just opened as well, right? So if you know of a leader that is overseeing one of the Latin American or South American markets or regions, make sure that you're nominating them as well. This is our opportunity to advocate for other Hispanic leaders. So make sure that you are sharing that with others as well, and nominating folks for the HITECH 50.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sari from Schneider Electric, and just want to say thank you for having me. I'm one of the newer HITECH members, but I was wondering, does HITECH have any community outreach programs specifically targeting lower income communities? I'm based in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, but I'm originally from the Bronx in New York City.
I would love to connect with you offline, and love to see exactly what you think the opportunity is, and maybe through our High Tech Foundation, and specifically helping young Latino under-resourced students access educational opportunities and internships and mentoring. But if there's something beyond that, I'm happy to chat. And so I'm going to put my LinkedIn if you and I are not connected yet, so that we can do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I think we
and-
could
Hi,
kind of design
hi
it.
everybody. It's Pablo Schneider, and I wish I owned Schneider Electric. That'd be awesome. We're going to be doing a couple of digital Renaissance dinners in February and April, and we're going to make them complimentary to all High Tech members. So like Omar mentioned, the erasing the physical limitations has really allowed us to open up. The last one we did, we had 250 viewers in 79 cities, and it was awesome. So I'll make that available to Viviana, and it'll be complimentary to all High Tech Familia.
Thanks, Pablo.
I want to say thank you to the new board members for being willing to serve. For those of you that are newer, High Tech is a fantastic organization. I've only been associated for a little bit, but our relationships with High Tech at JP Morgan has been accelerating rapidly, culminating here in the Spring Summit. But I would like to explore, we have such talent in the organization at such senior levels. There are many different things that we could collaborate on. Some of them might be simple. Maybe we choose to do something for Hispanic Heritage Month that's sponsored by High Tech. And maybe not all of us can participate, but maybe a few of us can. So I kind of drive Viviana and Susana crazy because I keep telling them about wild ideas that I have. Not sure any of them have hit pay dirt yet, but I'll continue pushing them. And I would encourage the rest of our community and familia to think about things. We are a powerhouse relative to technology senior talent, and we should leverage it for good.
Hi, everyone. It's Melissa. Just wanted to share with everyone from High Tech. I actually got laid off 3 weeks ago. So if anyone's looking to hire in the cybersecurity space, please reach out to me. I've been reaching out to all my contacts and doing everything that I can do. This is week 3, so I'm a functioning full person today. The first week was rough and shock, but because I didn't see it coming at all. I was like, wait, what? They actually used my one-on-one to let me go. I was like, what just happened there? But now I'm open and I'm eager, and I believe this is a blessing, and I know good things are going to come. So if anyone knows of anyone hiring in the cybersecurity space, I have a master's in cybersecurity. Good problem. I have a
Raise my
master's in
hand.
cybersecurity and an MBA. So please reach
Yeah,
out to me. I'm
Melissa,
home.
if you could send
actually
me
at
your
my parents'.
resume, I know a few companies that are hiring now in cybersecurity. Glad to help.
Yep,
Thank you so much. I'll reach out to
Melissa,
you
I think
tomorrow.
there's a few other folks on the chat that are also asking that you reach out to them as well. I would also probably suggest, if you want to use the networking opportunity after this, just get to know some of the folks that are on that call as well. If you want to share your story, that might be a good outlet also.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
I don't know any company who is not hiring in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
I think you will have to choose.
I hope so. I hope so. I definitely hope so. And as someone stated, I think Viviana, as you stated earlier, it is beyond freezing in New York City.
So I won't make everybody feel bad. I'm in Orlando. It is not freezing.
This morning, the real feel was 1 degree in New York. In Jersey City, it was 1 degree this morning.
Well, my heart
Maybe
goes
we
out
can
to
give
all
you a
of those
cyber
that
role in Tampa.
my heart goes out to all of those that are in below I guess, in teen temperatures. So my apologies for that. But I do want to take this opportunity to, we are at the top of the hour, and I know our awesome board members do need to jump on other calls and meetings, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for taking the time today on this Friday afternoon. We're so excited to work with you in the coming years, and to really, as you guys all mentioned, heighten and elevate high tech. So incredibly excited, and continue this journey with everyone on this call. So thank you all so much. If you have time, and folks that want to stick around for the next 15 minutes or so to do a little bit more networking and get to know each other, to Jonathan and Yamila's challenge, please feel free. We'll be online and we'll continue our conversation. So again, Jesus, Yamila, Jonathan, really appreciate the time. Omar, thanks for leading this awesome conversation. It was awesome. And thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.